Hello, welcome to Cleekly. Today we're going to introduce how to limit the types of equipment that players can carry. Equipment limit is a common mechanism in RPG games. For example, we stipulate that players can only carry one weapon and one piece of armor. Or in an FPS game, the player can only hold one weapon at a time. Switching to another weapon requires the player to remove the current weapon. These effects are all equipment limit. In this tutorial, we set two types of weapons and two types of armor for the character. The player character can hold at most one weapon and one armor at a time. After being equipped, corresponding special effects will appear on the character to indicate the wearing status. When the player removes the equipment, these special effects will automatically disappear. First, let's do a quick breakdown of the project. Effect demonstration. We can see that the process of players equipping equipment can be mainly divided into two stages. Number 1, picking up and discarding the equipment. Number 2, displaying special effects of the equipment. For picking up an equipment, if the player unit does not have this type of equipment, it will be equipped directly. If the unit already has this type of equipment, then the equipment picked up at this time will be discarded directly. We can define this automatic discard as system discard. When discarding the equipment, we need to distinguish between system discarding and player manual discarding. It is because when the player discards the equipment manually, we need to remove the corresponding special effect at the same time. Then, after the player unit picks up and equips different equipment, the corresponding special effects of the equipment will be displayed. In the demonstration, the special effect of the weapon is that as the player unit moves, a trailing effect will be produced at the wrist of the player unit. The special effect of Armor 1 is that some ice thorns appear periodically at the point where the player unit is located. The special effect of Armor 2 is a purple electric ball rotating around the player unit constantly. According to our needs, we can break down the functions into 4 parts. First, we need to store the data, then pick up and discard items, and finally, special effects. Now, let's see how to achieve these functions. The first part is data storage. We need to define the model, name, icon, etc. of each equipment in the object editor. We also need to add a custom attribute, type. Then, we store the equipment's type name as weapon and armor. Let's look at part 2, how to pick up items. When the player unit picks up the item, we create two local variables, unit and item, to cache the player unit and the item obtained. Then, we use the custom attribute type of the item to determine whether the unit has this type of item. If it is true, we discard the item and add a custom value, system discard, to the item, to distinguish between system discarding and manual player discarding, in preparation for removing the special effect when the player manually discards items. If it is false, it means the player does not have this type of item. The player gains this item successfully, and we add the custom key value of the item to the unit, because we will need to display the corresponding special effect according to the item's type. Lastly, we need to display the special effect. To display the special effect, we can use custom events. We can transmit information by sending custom events and receiving custom events. For example, a customer will press the service bell when he needs to order, like sending an event to the waiter. The waiter only comes to the customer when he receives the event, instead of him keep asking every customer if they're ready to order. Therefore, after gaining new equipment, we can send a custom event and perform the function of displaying the corresponding special effects by receiving the custom event. Before executing the received event, it is necessary to define the special effects corresponding to each equipment. Because the special effects of weapons need to move with the unit, and projectiles and Kleekly cannot achieve this effect at present, so we need to create modifiers as the carrier of special effects of weapons. Then in Object Editor, we create a custom attribute project type under each weapon to store the modifier corresponding to the weapon. The special effect of the armor does not need to follow the unit to move, so we can directly create a projectile as the carrier of the special effect. Then, we only need to call the special effect creation function, according to the type of the item passed by the custom event. The corresponding special effects of the equipment will be created. Next, let's look at part 3, how to discard items. Similar to picking up items, when a unit loses an item, we use unit and item to cache the unit and the lost item. Then, we need to determine the type of discard according to the custom value system discard. If it is automatically discarded, we remove the custom key value system discard from the item to avoid affecting the next judgment. Otherwise, it means the item is manually discarded by the player unit. We get the custom key value of the item and delete it from the unit, as the unit no longer holds this equipment. When we delete this custom value, the corresponding special effects will be automatically deleted. Lastly, let's look at part 4, how the special effect is realized. In the function library, we need 3 functions corresponding to weapons, Armor 1 and Armor 2. For the function of displaying special effects of weapons, we add the weapon modifier to the unit and start a loop timer to continuously check whether the equipment is removed. If it is removed, we stop the timer and remove the modifier. The logic of displaying the special effect of Armor 1 is similar to Weapons special effect. The difference is that Armor 1 special effect will be created once every second timer runs. and we destroy the projectile after 2 seconds. For the function of displaying special effects of Armor 2, we create a projectile for the unit and use a local projectile variable project to store the electric ball. In order to achieve the effect of the electric ball rotating around the unit, we need to define a local angle variable, angle, to store the angle that the electric ball needs to be offset in the next frame. We use a frame timer, a timer executed every 0.03 seconds, to check whether the equipment is removed. If it is removed, we stop the timer and remove the projectile. Otherwise, we calculate the location point of the electric ball. Set the angle of the electric ball to be the angle of the last frame minus 6. Then, set the location point of the projectile to offset the player unit by 100 toward angle. It's all set. Let's test the effect. Now, it's time to review what we learned today. In this tutorial, we introduced data storage and calling of custom attributes, picking up and discarding equipment, sending and receiving custom events, and the production of special effects. There are still many application scenarios for secondary classification of the same data type. For example, in shooting games, each type of equipment can only be equipped with one piece, such as a magnifying glass or a gun stock. In card games, there is a limit to the number of cards in each deck. These game effects can be seen everywhere. Thanks for watching. See you next time.